intervention to revitalize and to bring back some of that community aspect to them. I don't know how much you know about the community that we're working with here in Mexico, but essentially it's a segregated community on the foothills of a mountain range, and they face very particular challenges where, well, mostly they're pretty segregated from the rest of the city. They only have one vehicular access and one pedestrian access to connect with the rest of the city. There's very little public infrastructure. There's no utilities. I mean, there's utilities run to some of the areas of the community, but not to all lots. And some of these families living here are facing some level of poverty. The Mexican government has a very complex way of defining poverty. It's subdivided in different levels based on what your needs and what things you're lacking. And so some of these people are facing some sort of poverty. So my question to you is, with people and families in a community that are lacking some of the basic needs, like electricity, running water, garbage systems, so on, how would you propose to approach the issue of community and of solving problems together, when, to me, the immediate needs that they have are much broader than what they can individually or as a group approach?
You are muted.
It's a very complicated question for me, because as you can see from the presentation and from my knowledge of South and Central America, that is only related to Chile and Brazil, the situation is very different, because we don't have this social difference. And so, in some of the examples that I show to you, the idea to come back to live in a abandoned village is a sort of snobbish attitude. I mean, I have the money to take a castle, have bigger spaces, and live in the nature and countryside, and I have my affairs in the city, and I can control by the web. So it's not. I mean, snobbish is not the right term, but you understand that it's not a problem of money. And so, but I know that in a part of the world there is this problem, and so the solution probably are different. And I don't know if you already know the case study, the case of rural studios intervention. Do you know who are rural studios?
Yeah.
Because last year, yes, in 2020, we had an international design workshop, and we invited rural studios. I write to you studio. Okay, that is a office that is work with this problem in United States, where exists this kind of problem. And so they start from the self-construction and how to make good things with less money. For example, how to produce energy, because in Italy, we don't have this problem that you don't have the light in your home. It doesn't exist. Even because in Italy, doesn't exist informal settlements. I mean, this is even a problem. If you want a house, you have to spend a lot of money. A house cannot cost less than 1,000 euro square meters, $1,000, because every house needs to have light, water, insulation, thermical. So we don't have these problems. But in the country where you have, if you look to rural studios, it's interesting because they find a way, for example, again in comparative way, because the comparative way, I believe very much, but where you have a social distance, you need a driver, someone that is able to organize this cooperation. So probably it's not the political situation, but some institution like university could be. Rural Studios is a university, okay? And so, for example, one of the problem in a village where they make some intervention was for the fire, because they used to make building in wood, because it is the easiest way to find the wood near the villages and make yourself home. But sometimes they have a fire. And so, for example, they make a cooperative action to buy, how do you say bomberos in English?
Fireman or fighter fires.
Okay, to buy something that substitutes the bomberos. So a van with the water that is for the community. And this way they save the money for the insurance. That was a cost for them. So sometimes, so this is a sort of to survive to the situation, giving ideas. So if you take consideration to their project, I think that you can find some ideas and even the role of the architect. In this case of the bomberos, maybe it's not exactly the role of the architect, but it's a creativity situation. In another case, for example, of the constructive system. So, for example, they give guide like IKEA, how to make construction by yourself in a safety way. So this for me is a reference. Hi, Emanuele. I was discussing with these three guys. I said that probably my point of view is very distant from what happens in Latin America. I cannot help in solution, but I give them the reference of Rural Studio that last year came to Pavia to make a lecture. It was very interesting to how to act from the bottom, really from the bottom. But the difference between our culture in Italy and probably the other culture is that the social distance don't allow to have from the bottom action, because you're not really able, because you don't have the knowledge. In the Italian cases, most of the people that make new economies came to the city, study at university, and they come back with knowledge, with even with money. And so they have to take to find a player, someone who helps them to make this step in the way of cooperative action. That for me is the way to solve the problem of the community, of course, for a lot of reasons. So I invited you to see their work and their activities, because it's very strictly connected with architecture and to solve this kind of social problem. For the rest, I'm so far from this your situation that it's complicated for me to give other kind of solution. So I hope you understand this. And other ideas is, but I don't know if the territory that you are talking about is a territory with a landscape value. I don't know if this is can be an attractive territory or is a sort of abandoned territory. This is
It's
a
in
question.
the mountains, so
Yeah, it's in the foothills of a mountain range, and it was deemed unsafe to live there. So actually, people moved there voluntarily, and they self-built their own houses. So it's an irregular or an informal settlement that, after the years, it had to be incorporated into the city because of the amount of people that were living there.
Okay, so it's very difficult even to attract foreign investment, because foreign investment, they don't go in a place where safety is it's a condition. Because other experience in Italy is to reuse this abandoned village, for example, for immigrants. Immigrants is a very vulnerable situation that we have in Europe. People from Africa that came illegally. Okay, but again, we have some players who take care of them, and they start to put them inside an economical process to allow them to grow. So, of course, I think that probably the role that you have, even in the university debate, is to help this kind of situation more than the problem that we have in Italy. That probably maybe people can do by themselves.
So, from a community perspective, I mean, in the using the examples that you spoke of during your presentation, what would be the best way to organize a community towards this common goal? What strategies do you advise or suggest that we could take advantage of to help guide the discussion and help organize the community to eventually help them come up with their own solutions and their own methods of improving their own community?
But to create community, of course, one of the ideas is to put things together. So even because probably they have problem of everything, spaces and so on, if you can start to share from one side, you custom a little bit to the idea of the community, and you start to find the problems. You have to consider that when people meet, there is a conflict. Okay, but when you solve the conflict, you create the community. So this is, for example, is the value of the public space. In the public space, people meet. It's not exactly your space, and so it's a sort. People learn how to act with the other one. So the first one is to put things together, of course, and the second one, and this is again is a big problem, like in the case that I present to you, that every case is different from the other one, so you don't have solution. And so from the people origins the problems. In some of the community that I told you, they make their own policy in the way in which they use the financial fund that arrived from external. They substitute the political administration. But of course, to have this, you have to have a good level of social presence. Okay, but starting to share, it's an important element for sure, especially in this time in which people every time is more lonely. No, one of the problem that we have in the metropolitan areas is this paradox that you feel lonely when you have a lot of bigger areas with a globalized situation. So you have to fight this condition, and even if because we use all the this and so on.
Yes, and above all, we have to be empathic. We have to know how the other people are feeling, because as you said, we are not all in the same situation. We have that privilege of keep studying, and our parents have already the work they have, and we don't know what families are suffering right now. So it would be a good strategy to be empathic, but with all this pandemic situation, it's a little difficult to go and visit and talk to the families and like having a conversation with them. But we have the accessibility, as you said, of the telephones, all the technology, but yeah, as Arturo, my team said, in the community there, they are really marginated. The only connection with the city, it's a bridge, a peatonal bridge. So they are really lonely, and like we want them to feel they are part of the city, not that they are separately.
Of course. And another problem, of course, is how to attract economical value. This is a big problem, because it seems impossible to define. The city is growing, and this kind of country are going down. Even in the ecological value, that now it's something that everybody feel. The environment, the quality of everything, air, space, what we eat, what we do. And so this is a distance that is bigger. And so I understand the difficulty that you find. And for sure, are you architect?
Yes.
Okay.
Both.
Both?
Yeah, we're both architects.
Of course, we are lucky because we have the creativity to find solution in different and critical situation. And it's not only a design creativity, but is a design thinking now that we could apply to this distance. But of course, for example, in Italy, we don't believe that the architect can solve the problem of the world. I mean, this is a thinking of the modernity. For example, when I used to stay in Brazil, I was several times there, I feel that the architect think that he can change the social aspect. And because exists a huge social divide, okay? In our country, no other one make this solution, and so we are less used to think about this problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think architects in I mean, not only Mexico but Latin America have this common tendency of like feeling, I mean, for lack of a better word, very narcissistic, very egotistical, that they only hold the solution to all the problems, and that they can achieve these through the built medium. So yeah, it's very interesting how you pointed that out. I want to go back real quick. I don't know how much time we have left, but I want to go back real quick to something you said before. You said that people meet in the public space, and whenever people meet, there's going to be a conflict. So I'm a professor, excuse me, are you an architect as well?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
From an architectural perspective, what is the best way to approach conflict resolution? Is it through the design of public space? Is it through encouraging conversation? Is it through policy making? What is your suggestion on conflict resolution?
For sure is a design attitude. I mean, for example, in Europe, now we are used to divide the public space for function. So the bike lane, the pedestrian path, the street for the cars, the tram separated. And this is, from one way, it makes safe everybody, okay? So, but for the other, you don't meet. I mean, it's better that you cross the street and the bicycle brake a little bit because you see that they are you. So we are not separate. This is the kind of conflict that we have the area for the dogs, in the playground for the children, different playground in Italy, 0, 4, 4, 10. And so this separation from one side give safe elements, from the other side not allow the conflict. The conflict is to speak. No, we can in the design activities. For example, when you work with your colleagues, you fight. No, for your ideas, you fight. The conflict is a good thing that create a solution. And so I think that you have to take in consideration to allow the conflict to be in the public space and not to detach. And okay, hi Nivaldo. When I was in Brazil finding Nivaldo, he introduced me the design group Alborde. Do you know this? Alborde Architect. And that are very interesting in the way in which they use architectural way to think to solve even economical problems. And they say hacer mucho con poco, no? So how you can solve, and they are based in Quito, I suppose, Nivaldo, you know better than. And this is another reference that you can see how architect can even work in the economical value of the thing that is making, because the economy is very important for the local inhabitants of this kind of situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that is our goal, that our architecture or our resolution solves not only a living problem, instead that makes a global change to a community to get together, to the community to share their experiences, to share the living, and that is our goal, that our architecture impacts on that community we are working with.
Yes. I put the website in the chat. I don't know if you received. Rura Studio.
Another reference I would bring along with Alborde is a group of architects from Brussels called Rotor. They created a firm. I don't know if you are aware of that, if you heard about it. They created a firm that goes to buildings that are being refurbished, being renewed, and they are putting away materials, noble materials or not so noble, that would be go to the garbage, and they take it and sell it to new constructions. So I have a student here, former student, who had worked with Alborg in Ecuador, and now he started a firm here in Salvador, Bahia, just to do the same thing. He goes to these buildings that are being demolished or refurbished, gets all the wood, all the noble materials, marble, steel, everything that go to the steel. Many times it's used, it's reused, but other materials are not. And he sells it. But he's also doing works with communities from favelas that receive part of this material as a gift from the firm that is building the new architecture, as publicity, as marketing strategy. In the favela, people use it in their buildings, in their houses. So it's very interesting that this material comes for free. And
wow, this was, Emmanuel, this was really precise. We were like cut off mid-sentence.
Yes. Very precise, Emanuele.
No, I just closed the breakout rooms because maybe someone has to leave. So I think that we can stop here with the round table.